Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review, and today I'll be covering The Princess and the Frog. Uh, Before we continue, please like and subscribe, share this with your friends, follow me in the links in the description below, and happy Black History Month. And I really want to revisit this movie because I haven't seen it in so long, and this movie, holds up pretty well. There's a few cases here and there. There's like, man, it kind of, I don't want to say take me out of it, but it, the choices made, it's like I wouldn't probably go on that route because it kind of slows down the film in some cases. But overall, very good film. The first Black Disney princess, and handled very well, I might add. And it's not I won't say cliche, but it's like uh I mean, if it was done in this day and age, it'll feel, very pandery. But no, they play it. Uh, what's the word? They played it. Um, uh, what's that feeling? Sincerely, or like what I say, like you can tell, like there's a particular what's the word? Uh Genuine. You can tell the genuine earnestness of telling a specific story about a particular Black female lead. This isn't like copied off of this is based off the Frog Prince book, but it's catered towards a particular minority. It isn't like something like the Velma TV show where it's like, oh, we're taking our original properly and completely butcher it to tell like a entirely different thing because we can't trust in our own material of an original story without writing the coattails of something else that's popular already, kind of situation. No, completely not like that at all. And God, I don't know where, like, Disney kind of fell off at a certain point, because it's definitely in the past few years, at least. It's definitely some. I think the turning point was something after 2020. We started seeing chinks in their armor. And Marvel. Not a lot of people cared for Marvel Phase 4. I think Marvel Phase 4 still works very well, but it wasn't until like certain movies getting into Phase 5 where I starting to see like, okay, this is kind of screwed up, and that's when Secret Invasion really, like, okay, this is bad, even by Thor 2 levels. Even by compared to Thor 2, this is horrible. So yeah, because mostly they've been prioritizing quantity over quality, and that's the issue more so than anything else. And then you see something like celebrating 100 years of Disney with that trash movie Wish, and it's like, oh God, what are you doing? So it's like, you looking back at something like Princess of the Frog, it's like, even despite certain issues in this film in terms of the narrative, it still functions highly well. So this movie is directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. It stars Anika Noni Rose as Tiana, Bruno Campos as Prince Naveen, Keith David as Dr. Fusilier, aka the Shadow Man, uh, uh, sorry, I'm checking something. Michael Leon Woolley as Louis, Trevor playing Alligator, Jennifer Cody as Charlotte Lottie LaBeouf, Jim Cummings as Ray, the Firefly, Peter Barlett as Lawrence, Prince Naveed's valet, Jennifer Lewis as Mama Odie, Oprah Winfrey as Eudora, Tiana's mom, Terrence Howard as James, Tiana's dad, John Goodman as Eli Big Daddy LaBeouf, Charlotte's dad. So this is set. Well, the main story is set during the Roaring '20s in New Orleans, Louisiana. But we open the film, and this is like all hand-drawn stuff, so it's really, really good because we don't like appreciate hand-drawn animation like we used to. There's a lot of like that 3D Pixar effect, which in most cases is done well, like you see like with Moana or Encanto. But I think we kind of rested our laurels or used that as a crutch on the 3D animation. Despite how it can look very good, we should like bring back like the hand-drawn animation again, because you can do a lot with it, and the animation style in this film is still stellar, especially what they do with like the background scenery of New Orleans, Louisiana, day and nighttime especially. The Shadow Man especially have like cool, they do cool animation with that villain. And of course, they do have great songs, but personally, I think most people would agree that Tiana's song Almost There and Dr. Facilier's Friends of the Other Side is only two ones that like really stuck out to me in terms of really good music. Everything else is good, but it's not something you'll be humming all day long, you know. But I want to, before I get into the story, I want to address well, let me get at least a little bit in the story, and then we're gonna address a couple of things before we get really deep into it. So we open up where we meet a young Tiana and a young Charlotte who's being looked after by Tiana's mom, who also not only is like a sort of like a nanny, but also a nanny to young Charlotte, but also is a sewer or tailor for her, being employed by Eli, who is pretty much kind of like a sugar baron kind of thing. And Tiana's mom is reading the story about the Frog Princess, and of course young Charlotte is like so like invested about the whole love story and like wanting to meet a prince and everything like that. And I gotta say, right off the freaking bat, because I'll get into it further, but Charlotte and Tiana is probably like my two favorite characters out of the entire movie, but especially Charlotte. In terms of Disney animated films, in terms of best friend characters, she's one of the freaking best. I'll get into it as to why later, but I freaking love that character. But also, I love the hand-drawn animation. The creators was probably having like a grand old time designing this character, because she is like bubbly in all the right ways. And I think it was the same animators who worked on Hades from Hercules and the way he's animated. But man, I love the way the facial expressions of Charlotte in this film and her movements. It's a mark of a great like animator, where it's like you can tell a lot about a character before they can probably even open their freaking mouths, just by the way their emotion is, because everybody has to be distinct, so that way you know what they're about. You can at least get an inkling in your brain about what they're about. Like Facilier Boo's very like cool, and it's like got like a rhythm to his movements, because like he's dancing to jazz music most of the time. It's just very smooth. Charlotte is very kind of bubbly, Daddy McDaddy. Yeah, it's like that kind of like bubbly energy. It's like, yeah, you always gotta look out for that stuff, because when you find like something like, I don't know, Dr. Seuss's the Grinch, the Benedict Cumberbatch animation one, and something like uh 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 Horton Here's a Who, and then like something like I don't know, like Teen Titans Go, and it's like it's that zigzaggy movements where it's like, what is the difference between any of those characters if they all move the same? Is like the equivalent to jingling keys in front of your kid's face to get their attention, or at least distract them or something like that. And it's like, that's all it does. It serves as a distraction, because like, ooh, movements, kind of thing. And there's got to be a distinct way of certain characters have to move to separate them from the pack, and that's a mark of a great animator, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree. But anyway, Tiana is kind of skeptical about the kissing a frog to turn a prince, to be the Prince Charming, all that other stuff. She ain't dealing with all that stuff. Then Tiana and the mom, which is like a cool transition, because they live in like a very lavish neighborhood, and then they're taking a bus ride all the way down to a very shanty town type of neighborhood where all the black people are. And of course, young Tiana has like a dream of becoming running a restaurant with her daddy. You can tell immediately because she's actually preparing gumbo for the neighborhood and everything like that. And he explains to her about like wishing upon a star, which could also equate to like praying to God or something like that. They only can take you part the way. You have to work hard, the rest of the way to get you there. Of course, time skip. Tiana is a little older, and it would be like after the war at this point. And he would have. Enzo, thanks for the follow, man. After the war, because Disney, animated films, they always got to have one, or they gotta have the one or two parents that's there to kind of, well, it's not pushing the narrative or anything like that, but it's always some kind of gimmick. Like, they more, every now and again they move away from that gimmick in terms of having like a dead parent or anything like that, but it just it was 2009. They were still like in the thick of that cliche, but it's just like God, it would have been like great to just like have like both parents there, in my opinion. Anyway, she been working her butt off, rarely taking any fun time for herself, because she has this dream she's trying to achieve. She's busting her butt. There's been like quite a few controversies surrounding Princess and the Frog around this time in 2009, where initially Tiana was supposed to be some kind of chambermaid, but given the backlash about like having like but given the fact that given the time period probably would make sense, but it doesn't really hurt the narrative, where you just instead change it to her being working two waitresses jobs. So it's fine, but I had to point out a certain backlash this film was getting at the time. But she's been saving up cans full of money, and even her peers have been like mocking her about like, mocking her about you still want to run your own restaurant, and all the naysayers about that. And then other people, it's like, God, girl, why don't you take a break, have some fun with us, and blah blah blah. And of course she's blocking all that out because she has a goal in mind. She's laser focused, and she want to this dream, especially in the name of the memory of her father. And there's this like old rundown mill that nobody's bought up for years, and so she's saving up to use that building to convert it into a restaurant that she wants to run. Then we meet Prince Naveen and his valet Lawrence, who is on a search for a princess because his rich parents cut him off because I guess they got sick of his little playboy lifestyle and time to get serious in life. But he just wants to sing and party and just have a good time because he doesn't take things all too seriously. Which is like a dynamic that these two will eventually learn. Now, I think a point here one want to address the situation with like the black culture and everything like that. Now, I'm not going to speak for every black person. As a black person, I just want to bring this up that about I appreciate the whole representation of the Creole culture, the black culture, especially during the south of New Orleans, Louisiana, during this particular time period. Then we do meet up with Chalamet, who is a witch doctor, and he practices voodoo, but the narrative keeps, at least the writing keep confusing hoodoo and voodoo, where voodoo is a particular brand of supernatural stuff that adheres to particular gods, while hoodoo is more so of a religion, or at least spiritual side of things. I'm not Creole, I'm not from New Orleans, I don't particularly know in full detail about that, but that's just a gist of it to give like distinction between them, because the movie kind of conflate the two. I just want to bring that up. Yeah. I also want to bring up about how great the design of Tiana is, but the look of her as a frog is, for lack of a better word, basic. While the flip side of things, Prince Naveen, who looks like a generic Prince look alike, where it's like, all the while I'm looking at him, I can't help but look at Aladdin in the face. With the same, you put him, Naveen's face side by side with Aladdin's face, you can tell the generic features of your typical prince. Instead of giving him a very distinct look to separate him from the pack, to make sure this is Tiana's man. And also his race is way too ambiguous, and like it's fine to make up like a kingdom he comes from, but he needs to be like, no, he's a black man kind of thing. He seems very, given the fact that, I don't know, his voice actor has a very Spanish accent, I can't help but think he's from like a Spanish type of region, maybe Spain at the most. But instead, they didn't go with just like a actual black prince. Don't know what was like I don't know what was the motive behind all that stuff. Maybe some fear, some backlash, or fear or something. It's like, I don't know, like people ain't ready for we're giving like a black princess. Maybe we shouldn't like go too full tilt with it, just to ease other people because we're trying to appeal to a wider demographic. It's probably not gonna do well internationally like it is to have no faith in it, to actually have two solid black prince and princess. a couple in here. I think they kind of fouled that up. Not that Prince Naveen is a bad character, but it could just went all the way with it, with just having like a black prince and just trust in the material that you got. Especially if you're setting like a place like New Orleans, where it's like, you know, a fair amount of black people there anyway, and you already made up a country, might as well let it be like a black particular region. But the flip side of that, his design as a frog is very decent. And one of the other biggest problems that maybe people had at the time, the fact that the movie was sold on us thinking like, oh, just like Tiana is trying to help this frog prince to try to become a man again, but instead she's turned to a frog, which not many black people, especially, you know, black females, found that very appealing. But at least generally people didn't find that very appealing, because we kind of wanted to follow along this cool black princess, human form, trying to help this frog. But instead we're, you know, dealing with, you know, most of the film with her as a frog. She's spent more time as a frog than she did as human. I think, I don't know about the exact running time, let's say 15-17 minutes of human form time out of the running time. What was the movie running time? 97 minutes in total. That's probably including credits. So maybe at most 17 of those minutes is spent with her as a human, and that sucked, because she has a great design look. But also, one last thing before we get back into the story, I like the way they handled, because they wasn't overt with it, but they didn't play you like idiots either, where you can just infer from the context of the setting and the narrative and the way certain things sound like, well, we'll get to it, but clearly like the racial and class disparity that's obvious. Like I said about like when young Tiana and her mom was, after they finished like looking after young Charlotte and finishing her clothes, or at least the mom was, and Tiana by extension was palling around with Charlotte since they was young kids, making them fast friends. As they moving from one neighborhood to the other, you can see like the rich white neighborhood going all the way down to the poor black neighborhood. Clearly like the racial disparity, the racial even the class disparity as well, they handled it very good. They didn't have to be overt with it or have some kind of cliche like, you know, power to the people kind of moment. No, you have a narrative. The story of the Frog Prince comes first. All this other stuff that clearly had to be addressed, but doesn't need to be overt with it. You can have certain lines like the investors that Tiana was speaking to, because saving up money to buy this old mill, give her a line about like, you know, your with your background, you don't have to worry about your young self. We found somebody else for this old mill, so you don't have to worry your pretty little head about that, despite, you know, you fixing a, you know, wonderful beignets. Clearly like using not so subtle words about, oh, we're not selling to a black person kind of thing, because given the time period that would be a thing. It just, given if it's a kid, given the fact that it's a kids film, you gotta play it a little bit more subtly, but address it. So I'm glad they didn't shy away from it, but it isn't hit you over the head about it, because it's not the narrative that we're telling. It's not like Black Panther, where it's like, you know, Killmonger and his, you know, motive had to be like the front and center for a lot of the story, where Princess of the Frog doesn't, isn't telling that type of story, but it had to be addressed given the time period. So I'm glad the way it's handled. If it was made today, they were beating you over the head about like like, oh, this cracker ass cracker is like making my mom work to their fingers to the bone, making their white daughter all these little princesses dress, and having Tiana having a grudge against Charlotte for that kind of stuff, that they eventually having Charlotte apologize for what the daddy did. It'll be a whole thing, and it's like, no, that's not the narrative we're telling here. And this is me coming from a black person. At least that's how I enjoyed it. Anyway, now I got all that out of the way, and I'll get back to the narrative here. The Shadow Man sees Prince Naveen and Lawrence and makes a deal with them, because Naveen doesn't want to settle down with anybody and just have fun living life, but the fact that requires money, and he offers like a way out of that stuff, while Lawrence, like, you constantly break your back for everybody and you don't do anything for yourself, so I can give you something like that. So pretty much make a deal with the devil kind of situation. Naveen is turned into a frog, and Lawrence is turned to a doppelganger of Naveen. And there's this talisman that has a bit of Naveen's blood to keep the illusion of the facade, alive for Lawrence. Because Shadow Man has aspirations of using Lawrence to worm his way, because trying to get Lawrence to marry Charlotte so he can get his way into Eli's wealth, kill Eli, and pretty much usurp the position and take control of the New Orleans region. Because Shadow Man is pretty much like the product of this class disparity and racial disparity, because given his lines to Lawrence, like, ain't you sick of people looking at you like barely want to look at you sideways and all this other stuff? And it's like, clearly, like, he's projecting. He doesn't really give a crap about Lawrence, but clearly it's just like he's tired of the position he's in. And like, if you think about it, Eli is one of those people that would have been the cause of a lot of black suffrage, not directly, but by extension of the time. Tiana finally got the last of the money that she needs to buy the mill from Charlotte, who wants to pay for her services to make a bunch of food for the party for Prince Naveen, so she can get married to this prince. She goes there, she sees the investors, they just hand wavy, like, we changed our mind, we're not gonna give you the mill no matter how much money you saved up at this point. Oh, so there was another buyer. Clearly there was no other buyer. And she falls and knocks over all the food. And because I completely forgot this movie, like, how this, certain scenes play out, I initially thought like Shaw's gonna say something nasty to, like, oh, what you do is like, you're ruining my party. Nothing like that. Kudos to the writers, to the way they written Charlotte in this. Despite her, like, very, self-involved moments, which is still kind of funny, she's not completely devoid of empathy. She sees that her friend fallen on her butt, covered in, food. So she picks her up and walks her into her house, offers her dress to her friend, she, just to help her feel better. But of course, she's like acknowledges, like, oh my God, you look so beautiful. And then of course, Dan's like, I'll see you later, hon, and then dips out because you want to still find that prince. But I love Charlotte in this because she's not devoid. She's like a great best friend. This is like, you can still give this character a bit of depth without making her some kind of like a jerk. Because today's day and age, it'd be too easy for a writer to written her to be like a nasty mean girl, bitter or something like that, because of like Tiana's probably get onlookers that's looking at her and not Charlotte. But no, Charlotte sees Tiana as a friend. Despite her skin color, despite her station in life, this is her friend, and I'm gonna offer the clothes in my wardrobe to my friend. I don't care what her fucking skin color is. She's my childhood friend. That's it. I love that. She just like, that's a road dog right there. That is a friend. God, and she's funny too on top of that. And it's just like, I love Charlotte. She's great use of a supporting character in a Disney animated film. But Tiana feels a little bad because it's like she feels like all of her hard work has just been all for naught, just to have them go back on their word, despite ignoring like any break times, any chance for like fun for herself, busting her butt 2 jobs, waiting tables, just to get to a point where it's just like her goal is right in the tips of her fingers, and just to be yanked away. That is, you can feel the low point immediately, and just she's humming not humming, but like slightly singing the song of Almost There, but instead of the upbeat version, she sings the more like depressed version of it. Now it's like I was almost there. But then she sees Prince Naveen. He said like, oh, like I can talk, and this is shock her, but he explains that I need to be kissed by the princess in order to become human, and I make a deal with you. I come from a rich family. I will fund your restaurant if you help me get back to human. So she sucks it up, despite her skepticism of this whole frog prince situation. She kisses him, but considering that she's not a princess by official standards, the spell backfires and turns her into a frog. And this is where the issue arises for a lot of people. We spend most of our time following 2 frogs instead of one human and one frog, like it was kind of sold to us back then when it was first announced. So during some hijinks in the party, they end up in the bayou, and they both come clean about each other, which is very original, because usually they do the whole lie reveal kind of thing at the tail end or the 3rd act, but they really get that part of the way, which is kudos to them. He admits like I'm completely broke technically, and she's not really a princess. She was just wearing a dress that a friend loaned her. So they both think each other's are liars. But they're in the bayou. They come across a gator named Louis who just wants to play in his trumpet, in a jazz band or whatever. Aside from like all the animal supporting characters, I really cannot care really. Like, they're not egregious like Olaf or Jar Jar, but they don't leave an impression either. How many kids say that their favorite character was Louis? Unless you're talking about Brad Pitt's character from the Interview with the Vampire. another New Orleans type of thing, ironically. But anyway, uh, uh, Louis explains to them like, oh, you want the spell is broken, you gotta speak with Mama Odie. She's into that kind of magic. And of course, Tiana chastises Prince Naveen for speaking with the Shadow Man. Like, he's not from here. How are you supposed to know this guy was a bad deal? Even though you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but given the fact that, come on, this dude clearly is a freaking bad guy, but he doesn't know any better. So he doesn't know. Like, when you go to visit a particular city, do you know like the local con man of a particular city? No. So it's like, of course you're gonna get probably get fleeced by at least a couple of people if you don't know any better. So Dr. Facilier, sends out some shadow demons that from the other side in order to recapture Prince Naveen, because Lawrence unscrewed the lid too loosely because he wanted to make sure that Prince Naveen can breathe in his jar, because they needed to hold him there, because the talisman can only hold his blood for so long before they need another sample in order to keep it the disguise sustainable. Meet up with Ray the Firefly and meet up with Mama Odie, and she explains very like the whole cliche things like, you gotta find what you need kind of situation. And throughout this bayou trip, these two become a little more infatuated with each other. And Prince Naveen realized that he found the one that found the woman he really loves, that he never really sat down long enough to get to know a woman before. She teaching him how to cut up a mushroom to fix a dish so they can have something to eat, because teaching them how to be more responsible, and by extension he ends up teaching her how to loosen up a bit and relax, take time to breathe in, be present in a sense instead of being a workaholic. They get on this like a paddle boat thing, and he tells Ray he's gonna ask Tiana he wants to marry her, but he kind of fumbles a bit because he gets nervous and he feels like he feels like he needs to kiss Charlotte and marry her to make it official that she needs a prince. But given Mama Odie explains that since Eli is gonna be the Prince of Mardi Gras, or King of Mardi Gras, that would technically make Charlotte a princess until midnight, which is kind of like a cop out, but we'll just run with it. So he feels bad. It's like, he can't truly be with her, and he doesn't want to give her any false hopes of marriage with him if it's not going to come to pass. He ends up getting captured by the Shadow Ghouls, and Ray explains things to Tiana. They end up rescuing Prince Naveen. In the midst of that, Shadow Man mortally wounds Ray, and he tries to tempt Tiana with the promise of getting her that restaurant through the mystical means, but kind of realize this is not what my daddy would want, because he knows what was more important, which was like family. So she ends up smashing the talisman, which breaks the contract that he said with his friends on the other side, which, let's be honest, we know was hell, demons in hell. So this is probably one of the most gruesome, non-gruesome deaths in like a Disney film, where he's literally getting dragged into his grave, obviously being dragged into hell. And like, I gotta point out that God, Keith David is stellar in this. He always is stellar in this. I'm not telling you guys nothing that you haven't already known, but you literally see like on a tombstone with his frightened face on it, and it's like incredible design work. That's kudos to how it was brought together, because that is brilliant. A brilliant way to a display of the horror aspect of this. Because people are too afraid to actually frighten little kids a little bit in these type of films. You gotta give them a taste of a little bit of fear. It's like an inoculation. It's kind of like how I was with like Beetlejuice when I was a little kid. It's like, it's fun to watch, but it's just like a little bits here and there of, fear factors. It's like a little prick of inoculation. It's like, oh God, just to give you that, thick skin for later stuff. And once again, Charlotte, cool friend, come to realize, my friend's a frog. I got to kiss Prince Naveen. So I got you, girl. I'll help you out. And she kisses the frog multiple times, but it's too late. It's already past midnight. And they have a funeral for Ray, which honestly, I could not care less for this character. He's not really anything to me. But Mama Odie holds a ceremony for Prince Naveen and Tiana they decided, we'll just have a marriage and live our lives as frogs because I love you that much. But once they shared a kiss, that made it official that she kisses a prince. They get back to human form. They get back to the world, of humans and the civilized world. They finally, get that, meal that she wants, and everything ends on a happy note where it's like, she achieved her dream, and he's found the love of his life, and just playing music and everything like that, like he likes. Perfectly ended. Oh, and Lawrence gets busted and he gets arrested for impersonating the prince. But also, like, Charlotte is kind of like a weird thing where Charlotte's dancing with Prince Naveen's little brother, who's like 6.5, and I was like, oh well, I waited this long, and it's like, it's like, he's talking about like age gap, like, God, she was at most 25 and he's 6.5. It was like, you're waiting possibly 12 years and you'll be in your freaking late 30s, almost pushing 40 before he's legally, I'm not sure how the age laws it was at the time of the, I think they were a little bit more lax at the time in the 20s. Well, it would have been getting into the 40s or 50s. So I'm not sure, let's say 50s. I'm not sure what the age laws at that time was in New Orleans during the 50s, but it's like, it's still ewy. I'm sorry, but this movie's, still holds up in a lot of ways. It's still having fun despite like certain dragging moments with the whole, them spending too much time following Tiana as a frog instead of just following her as like a human person, because you want to see this look, because she has a great look. Honestly, and it has this, supporters, because it still made a lot of money, and to this day, there's a lot of people dressing up like as Tiana because she's one of the greatest Disney princesses. I did like a YouTube tier list of all the Disney princesses over my YouTube channels. You can check that out. I forgot where I ranked Tiana. She's got to be either A or S because she's very high for me. Because she's very good. A great Disney princess. Kind of like, Merida from Brave and Mulan, where these are active Disney princesses. They actually doing something instead of being a little bit more passive like Snow White or to some extent Cinderella. But if they wanted to do a sequel to this, It has to be anime. I'm getting sick of the live action Disney remake bullshit. I'm sorry, I can't with it. It doesn't. They won't stand the test of time like the animated versions. That's just my opinion. But if they do an animated sequel to this, I would, instead of carry on immediately like a couple of years after what carried on in this little adventure, I would prefer set in modern times, many decades later, where it's like, while once Tiana's restaurant was thriving during like the 20s and 30s and possibly 40s, it has become like a passed down from generation to generation, and now it's like not like a rundown spot, but it's like become, I'm not sure if Tiana will like franchise it at a certain point. I doubt she would, given how her character is. You would think like she want to keep it in the family, and because kind of like McDonald's, where it's like, while it's only a few restaurants and the burgers probably a little bit more better and possibly not too unhealthy, well, now it's like a whole chain, and not everybody's gonna make it the exact same doggone way, because it's kind of like a express line type of thing. Not exactly, but you know what I'm getting at. Tiana probably would not have done that. So set in modern times, where Tiana's great grandchildren will probably be running things, and now they're getting like the bad guy investor, not investor, but people come in like, we can franchise this, but they want to seize control of it or something like that. And whatever how many grandchildren there are, or great grandchildren they are, you gotta have like a picture on a wall of the of Tiana and Prince Naveen hanging up somewhere, and it's like, we had this. You can't sell this. Let's say it's 3 grandchildren, and like one of them wants to sell because it's not thriving well amongst all these other chains, and you can talk about something like crap, what do you call those things? Like you have in a lot of neighborhoods like New York and stuff. What do you call those things? Gentrification. You dealing with something like gentrification and everything like that, and one of the siblings is trying to want to sell this to get this off the land because they can't run it like they used to, blah blah blah. And it's like, if our great grandmother Tiana and our great grandfather Naveen would have seen this, they would roll over in their grave and blah blah blah. Because you can do something with that, because there's something to that. If you want to make a sequel to this, that could have easily been done. That seems like a easy plot point to do. I'm not saying it's like maybe because like they come for a royalty, and now like the royalty is in the position of Tiana, and like it's kind of like Princess Jasmine and an Aladdin kind of situation, where there's the local street rat meets up with one of the siblings, and they establish like a relationship, like let's say it's like a brother who's part of the Tiana family, while it's well, no, let's say it's like more so like maybe go with a girl who, because like Prince Naveen was the rich guy, and Tiana was kind of like the Aladdin situation, and Prince Naveen is part of like the Jasmine, and you flip that around. Now the female is in the position like, come from a wealthy background, while yeah, it would be Princess Jasmine in an Aladdin kind of situation, and like the local boys, the street rat, but they bond and everything like that. So you can do something like that if you want to make a sequel, because that seems like a easy plot point. But this is my thoughts. I've been sitting on that for at least a couple of days now since I watched this film, like, because it's well over 10 years now of Princess and the Frog, and if you want to make a sequel, don't make it a remake, make it a legit sequel, animated, and give something like that as like a plot device. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Princess and Frog. Still holds up. Highly recommend, obviously. And I'll see you guys in a day or two for a comic book review. Look forward to that. And I'll have late next weekend, at least close to the weekend possibly, of a couple of new movie reviews for the month of February. I just posted, well, I should have it soon if you're watching this on YouTube, up on my YouTube channel, License to Wed. So you can check out my thoughts on that film. But I'll try to have this up on YouTube pretty soon. So let me know what you guys think of Princess and the Frog. How does it hold up for you? It's obviously on Disney Plus. Despite issues with Disney Plus is, is a great streaming, service to just go back to. It doesn't have everything. It doesn't have like, House of Mouse for some goddamn reason, but it's still a great service. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. I'll be getting back to Tekken 8 soon because I want to try out a couple of new characters. But again, kind of like busy with some other stuff that for the channel, so it's kind of like before reviews. So yeah, I only got like so much time in the day. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a great weekend. Peace.